In the name of the Cedars-Sinai Alumni Association and the medical staff, I would like to welcome all of you to our monthly cultural function, which we keep happening virtually, a lot thanks to the support from Sandra and our artistic coordinator, Esfir von Blaugrund. Our program today is appropriate for the current reality of extra stress imposed on us by the pandemic. Amit Sternberg has a Master of Music from the Hebrew University in Jerusalem and is also a classical pianist. His talk today is about stress and music, and more correctly, about the ability of music to modify stress. This work is based on a lengthy research which he has done and now is ready to share it with us. After the lecture, you might appreciate more the music station FM 91.5, which provides incredible music, and will be thankful to you if you support the station. Amit will love to entertain questions at the end of the presentation. And now I'm asking Amit to come and give us the very much anticipated lecture. Amit, please.
Hello, everyone. Let me share my presentation with you. Okay, everybody can see the presentation?
Yes.
Yes. All right. So,
Yes.
Thank you for joining this Zoom, and thank you for the opportunity to present this distinguished alumni. And I would like to start with sharing with you some figures, some statistics. 90% of people listen to music at least once or twice a week. 50% of the people, and that's a lot, listens to music every day. They have daily sessions of listening to music. However, 20% listening to music out of purpose or in order to achieve some sort of goal. And so they might listen while they meditate or before they go to sleep, or when they do fitness, and sometimes they just listen to music in order to reduce the stress, in order to get into calmness. My intention in this talk is to give you a few explanations on how music exactly affects our stress, and also eventually to encourage you to use music more for stress reduction. I'll start with a few words about myself. Yeah. So my name is Amit Sternberg. I'm a musician. I was trained as a classical pianist, and I hold masters in music and philosophy from the Hebrew University in Jerusalem. I'm also a serial entrepreneur. I've been working in the Israeli high-tech scene for almost 20 years, building companies, selling companies, failing with companies, going through the whole circle. And 3 years ago, I moved to LA with my family, and I now work from here. In the last 5 years, my work is focused on researching and studying the effect of music on stress, combining my musician passion to music and my technological skill and entrepreneurial skills. And I'm also a co-founder and CEO of a young startup named Rubato, which deals with, looks for ways to quantify and measure the effect of music on human beings, mainly using cardiac indications, and also using these measurements in order to be able to recommend music to people to match the listener's physiological and psychological state, and eventually scientifically reduce their stress. So I think the most important thing to start with is to understand that the relation between stress and music is not occasional and is not spontaneous. This is a very strong tie between those two components, I would say, that have started from the early beginning of the evolution. It's quite easy to imagine our ancestor standing at the entrance to the cave at night and listening carefully to the sound of danger. He would listen to a hungry lion or to a wandering tiger because he needed to be prepared. He was keeping his alertness. He needed, in case someone would attack, he needed to run for his life. And that's exactly the place when sound or noise triggered stress. This is the place when our autonomous nerve system, the parasympathetic branch and the sympathetic branch started to develop. The noises created alertness and started to develop some sort of stress. So this is all, in a way, in our DNA. It goes through the history of human beings. By the way, there's a phenomena which in neuroscience, which I guess if you're part of it, you know, called P300, which describes exactly how fast sound is being perceived in the brain, much faster than visual, because this was the need. And it goes, the same mechanism goes a bit later, a few hundred of thousands of years later, when our ancestors became social creatures and started to communicate. They had to communicate, and they did communicate with sounds. So they would hit with the sticks or with the stones and create some rhythmical patterns in order to convey a message of danger. And again, the sound, the patterns triggered danger, triggered alertness. It contributed to the development of those two elements. And so the point is that those two neural pathways, in a way, grew up and developed together. They are very strongly linked. Obviously, the other side of music as well, as music provides pleasure, and we know it all the way in the history of human beings, came from the same point. So they were dancing together. They were moving together to the sounds of the drums and the patterns, and the same mechanism grew up. So music works as dopamine in a way. So it's a very important foundation of this talk to understand that the ties are strong and are part of our evolution. It's not by case that music has very strong effect on us. Now, I want to discuss maybe the most important element from my perspective. So music effect on the brain and on brain waves is a topic that was researched for almost 20 years, hundreds and thousands of studies and researchers from many angles and aspects, many researchers. And I want to concentrate this talk on one of the most most important things or elements in the effect of music. And to start with, we need to understand that our brain is pattern seeker. We constantly look for patterns because patterns make us feel comfortable, us avoid uncertainty, makes us understand or anticipate or predict what can come on. It's the ultimate combination between information we already have in the brain and new information. It helps us to combine. Patterns are important for us to feel comfortable. It goes across all our life. You know, predict the weather by patterns. You want mood by patterns. You want to predict behavior of people by patterns. It's extremely important. That's the way we are. That's the way our brain was programmed, constantly seeking for patterns. And music is not different in this aspect. And we found out that the more patterns are in the music, the more repetition, the more kinds of patterns, it's much more easier for the listener to accept the music, to love the music, to hear it further. And I'll touch Mr. Mozart here in a second, but before this, I want to explain or to go over with you on 3 kinds of musical patterns, which are, in my view, very, you don't need to be a musician to understand. It's very, by intuition, you can understand it. And the first pattern that I want to discuss is what we call in music question and answer pattern. It's a short musical phrase which cannot be left by its own, but needs to get an answer. I'll give you a few examples. Okay, so I guess many of you know this piece. It's a toccata by Bach in D minor. And the idea is that the phrase is built out of questions and answer. This is the question, and this is the answer. And in the bigger picture, this is the question, and this is the answer. And it's very easy for us to understand. It's very easy for us to adapt. I'll give you a few other examples of question and answer. If I'll take, for example, this part. Again, there's a question, the first one, and there's an answer. Here's another one. Question, the first one is the question. It can't be left alone. It needs to find the answer, and the answer coming right away. So that's the pattern on questions and answer. The second pattern I want to discuss, and again, it's very easy. It's the rhythmical repetition. So you take a small pattern of rhythms and you duplicate it. The best example is probably this part, that this movement, you know. So it's the same tempo, the same rhythmus pattern, da 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 da, and it returns, and it makes repetition, and it's very hard for us. You know, it's very easy for us. Sorry, you know what to expect. You know that the next time would be the same rhythmical pattern. And I'll give you another example of rhythmical patterns. It's the same thing. Da 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 da. You know what's coming next. It's easy for you to understand. It's easy to know what to anticipate. Easier for listening. And the last one I want to discuss is harmonic patterns. This may be a bit more, less by intuition, but you can understand. The main relations in music harmony between tension and between relief is based between two harmony degrees called tonica and dominanta. And I'll play it for you, you'll understand immediately. This is the relation. You cannot play dominanta without resolving it to tonica. You can find this in 90% of the songs that you're familiar with. Even if I'll play this one. That's the basic harmony closure. That's the basic harmony relation between tension and relief. And many composers use all those techniques and all those patterns, but Mozart, and this is the genius that he has to music, has been able to combine all three patterns and many other patterns into a very short, nice melody piece of music. And this is probably what makes his music so famous, so easy, so lovable, and so effectable on our stress level and generally the effect. And I'll touch the point. So the first example I would give from Mozart music is this symphony number 40. So what do we have here? We have questions and answers. Quite obvious. But we have as well the rhythmical patterns. We have da-da-dum, da-da-dum. It's easy to understand what's coming next. Da-da-dum, da-da-dum, da-da-dum-dum, da-da-dum, da-da-dum, da-da-dum-dum. And then we have the harmonic patterns of stress and relief. And so the combination of the three patterns makes his music so special. And we can have many examples. I give two more just for you to understand of Mozart most famous pieces. If I'll go to this piece. Again, questions and answers. Again, the same rhythmical pattern. Returns twice. Again, the same harmonic tension. And he does the same magic I'll give you one last example from his Piano Concerto number 21, second movement. Again, two phrases, questions and answer, easy to understand. Same rhythmical patterns, dam, da-dam, da-dam, dam, da-dam, da-dam. Again, same harmonic patterns of stress and relief. And apparently, his ability to write music, to compose music, using so much patterns, with so variety, but on the other hand, in so small piece of music, is differing him from other composers and has made his music so affectable, so valuable, and is probably considered to be the most famous composer from the Western classic music. Just finish this part with another rhythmical pattern that should be discussed. And I want to mention Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, which goes. And basically, those two short phrases are a rhythmical pattern of da-da-da-dam, da-da-da-dam. And Beethoven wrote this in the next lines as well. Pa-pa-ba-bam, ba-ba-bam. If you open the score and you count how many times Beethoven has wrote ta-da-da-dam, you'll count more than 400 ta-da-da-dams only in the first movement of the symphony. And that is probably why this piece considered to be most famous classical piece ever. 400 repetitions of the same rhythmical pattern. So the element of what we call patternability is one of the strongest elements in which music affects stress. Moving onwards, I want to discuss a little bit the music and stress in terms of the heart and how music affects the heart. And in order to do so, I need to explain a phenomenon called entrainment. And entrainment basically is the tendency of one frequency to affect other frequency, the oscillation. If two frequencies are close enough and strong enough, they would have the tendency to sync. They would have the tendency to affect one another until they come into full sync and they are in the same speed of oscillation. And the guy who revealed this, Christian Huygens, basically found out using two pendulum clocks. He took two pendulum clocks, like the one you see in the picture, and hanged them on the same beam. And then he started the pendulum, one from the right side and one from the left side, and it left them going. And after 30 seconds, you could see that they would sync, and they would go in full sync for the time. And this is exactly the phenomenon that happens with music and the heart. If you play music strong enough and the beat is clear enough near your heart, the frequencies would try to sync. And so if the heart, for example, beats in 75 beats per minute, and you play music in 90 beats per minute, the heart trend would go up. The heart would try to align the frequencies, and the trend would go to increase the heartbeat. If you play music slower than the 75, and again, the music would be loud enough and clear enough, and the beat would be strong enough, the heart would slow down towards the BPM of the music. And this phenomenon called entrainment helps us to manage with music the pace of the heart and eventually control some of the stress level. We use indication like heart rate variability, which is a well-known indication for real-time stress level. So the heart represents an indication for the stress, and we are able to change the heart pace, and we're able to control, in a way, the stress level. There's a well-known study made by Dr. From Eindhoven, in which he took, during a flight in an airplane, he took 2 rows with 20 guys on each side. And one of the rows, they played music randomly. Random music they played from the beginning of the flight. And the other 20 guys received biometrical engineering recommendation. So they would measure their heartbeat, I think using oximeters or even ECG, and they played music slower than the heartbeat in order to make them relax. And the results were amazing. So the group with the random music recommendation reported later on in the cognitive questionnaires quite an amount of anxiety and stress, mainly using the beginning of the flight when the plane take off, but later on as well at the landing. Only 2 people out of the 20 guys fell asleep during the flight. It was quite regular. But the other group, the 20 people who received the biometrical music recommendation, reported significantly low levels of stress and anxiety, and 12 people out of this group fell asleep for more than 5 hours during the flight. So this physical element of entraining the heart using music and using measurement like heart rate variability and heart pace and heart trend really works. This is about physics. And I'll show you in a second some examples from our work. So now a little bit about what we do in the company. Basically, we are applying AI, artificial intelligence, to look for correlation between music attributes and between the stress levels as measured by the heart. And the technology detects certain attributes in the music. We look on the main thing, like the tempo of the music we just discussed, like patternability, which we've discussed previously, like the key of the music, whether the music has text or no, the danceability of the music, the acousticness of the music. So we analyze those factors, those elements, and the artificial intelligence looks for the correlations with the stress. And we have found out few things are quite intuitive, but yet it's amazing to see in the data. We have found out that each one of us respond differently to different kinds of music. So same music might be irritating for me, but might be relaxing for the other one. Same music might put me asleep and while disturbing the other. Same music might give motivation to someone else while being very annoying to the other guys. But not only the personalization of the music, but also the elements of the music which make the effect are different. So many people are being affected by the tempo, but we found out people that are being affected much more by the loudness. So high volume music would affect them even stronger than the BPM. We found people that are affected by minor scales. People who listen to minor and get anxious. Something in the minor scale make them frightened. And that enables us, and that helps us to build a profile for each of our users and understand which attributes, which element in the music work for him in order to relax him, in order for him to reduce his stress. And so the technology makes wonder here. We have quite high, I can't share numbers right currently, but the accuracy level of what we are recommending to people scientifically reduces their stress. And we can see this in significant numbers of accuracy. I now want to share with you some data just to understand how the things work. So what you see here is the amount of correlations when we played 4 songs to one listener. And this is an EEG, obviously. And we're looking on the left side of the brain, the electrodes placed on the left side. And you can see that the blue song, which is again, the Bach piece I played previously, which is very much, contains a lot of patternability and patterns. You can see that significantly it's higher than the other stuff. So there's a strong correlation between the patternability and the left side of the brain of this specific guy. And now we're going to drill to another resolution of a specific electrode, which represent 6.3 hertz, which represent delta brainwaves, which usually correlates with relaxation and even falling asleep. And you can see apparent correlation between the brainwave and the music patternability. So all the stuff I talked previously about building tension and resolving tension, about using music is almost directly correlated. This is about 60 or 70% correlated to our brainwaves, which relates to their meditation and calmness. So this stuff really works on music. And before I open it up to questions and answers, I want to wrap it up in one sentence. I mean, we are all in the pandemic, as Isa said, and this pandemic obviously changed our lives and definitely contributed to stress, increased stress for everyone. Our life had changed. But for me, I think stress was a big problem much before the pandemic. And I think it will be even bigger problem when this pandemic will end. Obviously, everybody hopes that in a few months we'll have both treatment and a vaccine for this pandemic, and we can get out of it. But the stress is here to stay. And we are all living in an area of very stressful times. And I want to encourage you to listen to music and use music as a mean, whether you use technology like we are developing, or you simply listen to music that you like and that you believe that relaxes you. I think music is enjoyable, cheap, very efficient to manage your stress. Thank you, and I'll take any questions that you have.
Go ahead.
Okay, just 1 second. Hi, everybody. If you want, if you want to ask a question, you can unmute yourself and ask the question.
So, hi, it's Diti. And first of all, thank you. It was really very, very interesting. And I believe that music changes the brain. And it happened to me when I listened the first time to Beethoven. I thought, oh my God. My question to you is, when they did the research on the flight, was it randomized? Did they check for mediators? And you know, some people fall asleep no matter where. So, and were there any other research that were done on thousands of people?
Yeah, so for the specific study on the airplane, one group received randomized music from the airplane's entertainment system, and the other group received very well-defined music personalized to each one heart pace.
So they, sorry, I'm interrupting you. So the people on the plane were selected. It was not just people who were on the plane.
No, there were, sorry, I didn't get, maybe I didn't understand. There were ordinary people. They just split the airplane on the right side and the left side.
So they did not know whether there were people that would fall asleep anyway.
No, but I mean, this might be just random people that are more tired than the other one.
No, I want you to know that I am for music, and Nietzsche said, without music, life would be a mistake, almost nothing like music and nature. So I just wanted to know more about the research that was done. I want to add that the fetus already hears the mother's voice. When the baby comes out, he can recognize the mother. He would look to the side where the mother is talking. So the same with if you give, if a pregnant woman listens or plays the music, it affects the fetus.
Yeah, this is well-known phenomenon. And by the way, discussing Mozart, there was, or there still is, companies which recommended for the mother to play Mozart for the baby because it contributes to the baby's development even while he's still in the mother's.
Yes.
That's exactly what I was talking about. The patterns are contributing to the development, even of the baby inside his mother here.
Mm-hmm. And also when you played a Bach, it also depends how you play it, right? Because, right, it can be the same piece of music, but it depends how you play it in order to affect the brain and the stress levels, right?
That's always true. The interpretation of the pianist always has some effect.
Yeah.
The idea of the composition itself is about repetitions of.
Yes. Yes. Mm-hmm. Thank you so much.
You are most welcome. You can reach out to me.
It's exciting. It really is exciting. Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Can you give the technical definition of a harmonic pattern? Like rhythmic is easy to understand. The frequency is the same. What is the technical definition of harmonic pattern?
More than major than minor.
It's kind of complicated to understand the technical, but the ability of music is not only to be a single line music, but to have some sort of background of harmony. And the harmony, it conducts scale, and it conducts relations. And the relations between the notes determines the level of tension that one could hear. And that's exactly when we're talking about the stress and relief, that's harmonic relations between two notes, whether they are in conflict or they are aligning together. And eventually it's about combination of frequencies. I hope I helped you understand, but it's, you need to drill down a little bit to know music in order to discuss harmony deeper.
Thank you.
Harmony would sound more like major than minor. Does this help? Harmony is more, right? It's not dissonant. It's more.
Yeah, in a way,
Right?
harmony is what, but in the general description, dissonance is part of harmony. And both minor and major are part of harmony. Harmony is the term for all the relations between notes.
I have a question. Does
Sure.
the brain, hi, thank you very much for a nice presentation. Does the brain react different between natural music, which is like the sound of the ocean and the breeze, than man-made music with the instrument?
Yeah, so it's a very good question. And there's a sort of debate these days. But I think the bottom line I would answer is, and there are many, by the way, applications that uses sounds of the sea and the rain and the wind, that this is very, very, very personalized. So we have people that listening to the rain and it just kills them. They can't listen to it. It annoys them. It irritates them. It doesn't work for them. And we found people that the other way around, that that like it very much and are relaxed. Their stress level are decreasing significantly when they hear music. Sorry, when they hear those kind of effects or noise. So it's very, very personalized. I don't think there is a rule to it. Very much depends in your cultural background. And I'll say something. And it's well known that the brain perceives and is much easier for the brain to get used to something when you are young, right? So by the ages of 5 till 12, 13, even further, the brain is much more open and very much dependent on the music or the sound or the environment that you lived in to create the background to what definitely later on would make the right effect on you. So if you grew in the wood with wind blowing, you would probably be more responsive and the wind noise would make the effect on your stress. But if you grew in the city and you were listening to hard rock when you were young, this is type of the music that later on can help you. And yeah, that's basically it. I hope I help.
So I have a question.
Sure.
With your company, are you still in a research area, or did you start already treating patients and helping them?
Yeah. So the company, we're still researching. We're collecting data from people. We have application in the store, and we work with smartwatches. We collect the data on the stress and the heartbeat from smartwatch. We are in the phase that we are out there, not selling yet, but collecting a lot of data. We have a beta testers community, and we analyze the data, and the data basically is being fed to the algorithm in order to shape the AI. However, we do look for collaborations with academic institute and research institute to widen up the academic part. And the company itself currently at this stage is aiming, it's a wellness company. So we want to help reduce stress in a very general way. We're not yet focusing on medical problems. However, it will be the next stage for us because we believe that it will be a few years from now. I think this is quite obvious. The doctors will eventually prescribe music for the patients.
Absolutely.
For relaxation, for anxiety, for stress reduction, just for managing the stress. Because the tool is there and you just have to pick up the right music and the right attributes to make the effect.
What music made
Do you need
your
volunteers?
stress levels down?
Yeah, I'm happy to collect volunteers, and you are most welcome to join our beta test.
Oh, wow, yeah, I will volunteer.
I'll join you.
What kind of music lower your stress levels?
But that's a that's a good question. However, it's a good point to emphasize that people tend to think that specific kind of music or even specific piece them relaxed. And we found out there's a big difference between what you think relaxes you, the cognitive response, what the actual biometric says. So we found people that say, I know this piece relaxes me, but the science showed that actually the anxiety grew at this point. And people tend to mix it up. So personally, and you know, the beautiful thing about this method is that you cannot argue the numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Quite sure that those long notes, meditation, music pieces, oriental in a way, are not for me. I couldn't hear them. But when the computer recommended me to start listening, and I could see that the stress is decreasing significantly in comparison to other music that I like, you cannot argue. So it's very important to understand that not necessarily the music you think is good for you is actually doing the right job for you. So personally, the music I love is the music I played here, is the classical music, the piano. But the music that works for me, that I guess the doctor would have write the prescription for me, is very long meditation type music pieces.
Wow. Interesting.
Amit, Amit, I wanted always to find out that I do meditation a lot, and I do listen to meditation music. And there is such a thing that's called subliminal messages into music that I'm afraid that like a brainwash. Is there is such a thing, or this is just a gimmick to sell?
That's a general term. There are some sort of manipulations of frequencies that are trying to manipulate brain waves. By the way, it works by the principle of entrainment, which I discussed previously. So sometimes you can use frequencies that your ear doesn't perceive, but the brain waves would be affected by them. But this is very minor. I wouldn't get excited about it or nervous about it. But this is a phenomenon that we are familiar with. There's a technology called, there's a phenomenon called binaural beats, which basically they found out that, I mean, there's some frequencies that we can't hear. But apparently, if you play one frequency in one ear and other frequency in the other ear, the delta between the frequencies cannot be heard, but can be perceived by the brain. So there is a way for our brain to receive very small amount of frequency, like 4 or 5, which would make effect on the relevant brain waves.
Thank you.
Sure.
So who is your favorite composer? I'm curious.
My favorite composer is
Yes. Who?
Chopin.
Chopin. You played one piece before.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love this piece.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
By Chopin. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. How about Beethoven?
You can't ignore Beethoven.
Uh-huh.
But I'm a romantic guy, so
Yeah, I got it. And Schubert,
Schubert as well. Yeah.
right?
Schubert is one of my favorites. Yes.
The dementia and music seems like many patients in dementia, their the last thing they hold is the ability to enjoy and to
Yes.
repeat music. Is there
Yes.
something in the brain, deep in the brain, that's the last thing that's affected?
חושב, אני חושב שזה, יש יותר אנשים
Yes. So that's a very good topic. And it's in a way got to do with the thing I discussed. First of all, you know, the research, last researchers, music was, I mean, language has developed a lot of music.
Yeah.
So music is there before the languages. It's much easier for the brain to work with music. And again, considering that music is there for you when you are at the age of 3 until the age of 12, and you've been listening to the same song. You have created some sort of mechanism because you like this song and you hear it again and again and again through all your life. You create neural pathways of the song. And it's amazing to see that people with dementia, they forget the faces of the closest family members, but they can still remember music because it's stored. The neural pathways is much more deeper. And indeed, so we see magic in music does on people. So we believe again, our organization would have to understand the ages in which the patient lived and to which music he was exposed when he was a young kid, and which other elements of the music affects him positively. He can eventually play a very personalized playlist that would evoke some sort of response.
Thank you.
Questions, anybody?
Any more questions?
Okay, if no more question, I'd like to thank Amit for a beautiful lecture, and we wish him continued success in the research. Maybe we'll find something new to tell us in the next year or two. Thank you very much, Amit.
Thank you, everybody, for listening.
Thank you, Amit.
Bye.